This presentation will show that you must first address inequalities and poverty before committing to economic growth. Why should we focus on poverty so much? What's the importance of poverty? Poverty is real important when we're talking about economic growth. If you notice the quote below, it's related to India not being able to maximize on their economic growth due to too many people being poor and very few people being rich. The solution to poverty is generating higher real income. So for me, the true indicator of economic growth comes from the increase in real gross national income per capita, meaning that citizens are getting more real income, meaning they'll have a higher purchasing power. This is a chart that I got off the internet. This shows the shares of wealth owned in the United States by the different wealth percentiles. So the purple line is the bottom 90%. The orange line is the next 9%. And the blue line is the top 1%. If you notice, in year 2004, the top 1%'s slope remains positive, while the bottom 90% continues to become negative. If you even look at year 2016, you see how the top 1% owns the same amount of shares of wealth as the next 9%. So this is 4 years ago. So it would be safe to make the assumption that now currently the top 1% may own more than the bottom 99%. So when you see stuff like this and you see the data, you just got to stop and ask yourself, how is that possible? How can a handful of people own more wealth than the vast majority of people in the country? If there's an increase in gross national income per capita, there will be a higher standard of living, which will cause an increase in household incomes, a higher life expectancy, and a decrease in crime. If we also decrease the inequalities between the poor and the rich, we'll have same quality housing, access to same quality education, and access to same quality health care. All of these components will result in a higher human index for our whole country. This means that, in general, all people in our country are living better off. Access to same quality housing is very important. All people, whether in low income areas or high income areas, should have safe housing. No hazardous facilities or toxic landfills should be near any residential areas. When they are around residential areas, it affects the quality of the air and water and makes people in these areas have a disadvantage of having lower quality air or having a lower quality environment, making their area undesirable. This is actual CNN footage of a toxic facility near a minority community. If you notice in the image, you can see smoke filling up most of the sky. So I wonder, does this happen 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year? Because if so, for sure this community has poor air quality. When it rains, think about that smoke and that rain creating acid rain. Think about all those health issues. Some people may say, there's a lot of health issues in the low income areas just because they can't afford to go to hospitals, but what is because all these environmental hazards? Two, with facilities like this being nearby, property value is going to always stay low, always making these areas low income. So I ask you, why do we have these near residential areas? Why can't we have areas, district, or zone for particular facilities like this? The next form of inequality that we must address is inequality in the school system. There needs to be accessibility for same and equal education, which includes equal distribution of academic resources. So we need to all have better resources to allow for smaller classroom sizes. We need to have equal school fundings. So equal after school and summer school programs. Smaller schools don't have the same number of sports as a bigger school. Minority schools can only afford to have just a basketball and a football team. They probably can't afford to have a tennis team, a swim team, a lacrosse team, or an air hockey team. Current textbooks. All schools need current textbooks. All schools need to have qualified teachers, and all teachers need to be paid the same. Teachers shouldn't get paid less just because they work at minority or impoverished schools. That's not fair to the teachers nor to the students. Okay, I have more pictures. And I also have two questions. These are two separate classrooms. Which one do you think is the minority classroom? Do you see the difference? Okay. And my next question is, which classroom would you prefer? So I'm about to start talking about the classroom to the left. So the classroom to the left, if I'm just eyeballing it, I see one instructor and probably about 30 kids, probably a little bit more. I see kids sitting on the ground. So if the kids sitting on the ground want to look at the alphabet chart in the back, they would have to stand up. I see limited space. The teacher looks like she has very little walk room. Like if she wanted to walk to the front of the room, she'll probably accidentally step on a little boy sitting in the front just because there's not enough space.